Hello. I'm not in the mood to actually play fighting at the moment, as I've had a bit of a mental breakdown playing. I'm not gonna lie, not gonna lie. So, let's rate the map, shall we? Oh my god, is this map a horrible one. I'm so happy that it's getting reworked, by the way. The rework, it looks amazing. It looks so good. It genuinely might end up becoming one of my favourite maps. Specifically, if it's a conquer only map. It's not going to work as Annihilate. Yeah. We have so many spots where Hyperlaser can just constantly dominate, and it is unbearable. Because if you don't know me, I'm a massive Hyper hater. Hyper is a horrible character in general. I just don't like them. The fact that you can just sit up here and you can see all of that is insane. That's insane. I don't like it. I do not like it. It looks ugly, so it's getting a massive visual rework. This whole thing in the middle is horrible. It's just so bright, and you can shoot through it. So it's just there to be a visual obstacle. These parts here genuinely might be the only areas of the map what I am not a massive hater of. Here is horrible, and it, in general, just looks very tacky. It looks a bit rushed. Over here is the most useless. Like, you'll never see anyone up here. The only time you're ever going to use these side parts is when it comes to Annihilate, or you're getting jumped by a diver. And that's it. That's about it. I have nothing to say about this map other than listen to this, because it is a horrible noise. I rest my case. Now, these next few maps, and you're going to find a pattern in them, are not in any particular order. However, they're all just as bad as each other. Laundromat. It is so open, and then you've got the issue of it's two separate floors, right? Except when you rarely see a fight on the bottom floor. You sometimes see fights on the bottom floor over here, but like the only time you're going to be actually on the bottom floor is to use the trampolines as an escape method, and that doesn't even work because everyone can just still catch up to you. The fights are normally going to be here where the orange is. You could flank, but then there's this sightline for Hyperlaser. What? Again, Hyperlaser has so much space to just do everything. It's insane. And it's 4 different points. So Slingshot and Hyperlaser both dominate on this map, obviously. And it's just people I've seen recently when it comes to Annihilate, a lot more people have been camping. And it's like, it's not just like a few people, I guess, like a few teams now and again. Every single time I've played Annihilate recently, people have only camped. And this is why. This map is, it's just, you've got protection there from that big wall, you've got protection there, protection, and then that's it. What are we doing in the middle? We're just letting ranged fighters pummel you. The only redeemable thing, which would probably make this map higher than the rest of the Annihilate maps, which are in this tier, because there's a few which aren't in this tier, because there's a few I actually like, it's that the half-time thing, no, not half-time, 1 minute thing, is actually pretty interesting. The water going up, forcing you not to be on the bottom floor. That's interesting. It would be more interesting if you actually had to fight on the bottom floor. However, no one really fights there. The only time you really go into the water as well is when it's an accident. It's not good. I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Now, are we surprised? Not only are all these maps going to be Annihilate maps in this tier, but they're also going to be dominated by Hyperlaser, and just genuinely insufferable. Hyperlaser sightline, Hyperlaser sightline, Hyperlaser sightline. This is a massive choke, and people normally just camp. There's always just going to be one team camping in their tower, with the other team having to go towards them. And due to the map being so small, you're bound to be camping them, the other person, and it's such a boring mid-map. Again, ranged. Boy, oh boy. About time this map showed up. Issues with it quickly, because, you know, gotta be quick with these maps. Hazards are horrendous, hate them. Slingshot, especially. Hyperlaser not as much, due to the fact that Hyperlaser doesn't have as much movement. However, Hyperlaser's movement is horrible. Slingshot is very dominant on this map. This here, in the middle, very much helps. Was this? I don't think that was added. It helps, yeah. Still don't really do much. The map is also just not good. Like, I don't like how the map is or plays or literally anything. It's such an odd map. I don't know how to explain it. Just not a fan. Also, just I don't like it visually either. So yeah. Look, actually, I lied about all the Annihilate maps in this tier having the same issue. Look, this one isn't truly dominated by Hyperlaser.
Stop! Stop it! Stop it! Stop!
Still dominated by Slingshot because, you know, Slingshot is also the same issue. It's got the interesting thing of having these. However, I wish they were a bit cooler. They're kind of just there. You could literally just ignore that entire part of the map. This is where the interesting part is. It just isn't a great layout. The layout is a bit weird, in my opinion. I'm not sure how to explain it. I guess how cramped it all is. And that's kind of what you need for Annihilate for range to not dominate. However, there's just something about it which is too cramped. I actually couldn't explain why this is in here. I just have a feeling. I have a feeling. Just look at it. Look, I have nothing to say. Oh god, this map. Now, I can commend this map for just generally being very unique in terms of its layout and how you play it. What I can't commend it for is how big it is. It is massive. Again, Hyperlaser is very dominant. Have you finally got on the pattern? Then there's this entire section you are never going to use. Oh, hi, it's fine. And then there's all this down here you can use sometimes, but you're never gonna go through here. This entire section, never going to use. And then this is just massive space, which is kind of wasted. The only time you're going to fight in here is if you're getting absolutely demolished on, or vice versa. Well, next tier. Now, I'm going to be truthful. The only reason why this map isn't in that tier before, is because I actually really like the look of this map. This map is the best looking map so far, in my opinion. My very professional opinion. I like it. Granted, it doesn't play out very well. It's kind of just not an amazing map. Again, Hyperlaser. It's very split. There's a lot going on, though, which I like. However, truthfully, the only reason why is because I like the map. Good job making a really good looking map, though. I do want to say again, I like how many different options you have when it comes to playing it. And how it looks, and that's it. That's it. Now, this one is above for a few reasons, and I don't want to put it down. I could arguably put it higher, in my opinion. However, I'm not gonna, because there's still issues. You are very prone to getting spawn camped, and Hyperlaser again has insane sightlines. However, the map, they added this in here and these little things over here and here. That made the map 10 times better. Not good enough to be higher than this tier though. And it just generally looks really nice. I love how it looks. I'm a big fan. I don't have anything else to say about it because I think it's a pretty generic map. Again, just Hyperlaser again is a horrible character to go against on these maps. He's an awful character. My first pure conquer map, and it is terrible. It's, for starters, very big. So big. Hold on, you can go up here. I was going to say you're not able to spawn camp, but seems like you are. Hold on, I want to test this. Let's test. Okay, so seems like you are able to spawn camp, and I had no idea. Oh well. Right. Hyperlaser. Again, Hyperlaser. Also, it's ugly. Also, the tunnels don't have much of an effect. I'm glad the tunnels don't have much of an effect in the game. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like it'd just turn into an Annihilate map, and we don't want any more Annihilate maps, which are bad, do we? These tunnels on the side are the most useless, irrelevant things ever. Did this map used to be Annihilate? I started playing back when Scythe, before Scythe joined, because I remember asking about her in a server. But I don't remember too much about the game. So was it an Annihilate map? I could see it being an Annihilate map due to its size. However, in general, it's just not very good. The point is very boring. You have no cover near the point or anything. This is one big, massive effing wall. So even if you're here, you can easily get hit So you have literally no cover ever. And then there's these, but like you're never going to be here unless you're a high placer and you get indoors. Oh my god, there's nothing else to say. Here it is. The best Annihilate map. Chaos Canyon. Here, massive sightline again. However, you have a lot more cover on this map, which I appreciate. In general, you've just got more cover to play around, which is 10 times better. However, the cover just isn't very interesting, I guess. You can spawn, you can camp, not camp, you can stay in your area and never dive or brawl or anything and just poke, which is another issue. The train is a nice addition. I also like that when you're in here, you slowly move over to the side. Or is it this way? Don't know, it's one of the ways. There's some interesting things you can do, but like some things are just so lame. Like here, you are open to everywhere. So Slingshot and all range characters, again, can just do whatever they want. Yeah, that is it for this map, I guess. There's another common occurrence you can probably guess by now, and especially with this map. A lot of maps are so incredibly range-sided. It gets to a point where it's like, yeah, no, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this, Grandpa. Well, I don't like this map because of the lack of cover. If you want cover, you need to go all the way off the map, and then the other person chases you, and if it's a skateboard or a biograph or a coil, you're dead, and it's just blah, blah, blah. They can get back really fast, but then if you're a vine staff, you're not going there fast. You're not getting away fast either. Just the lack of cover, the lack of interest. And again, it's range-sided. Woo! Here we are, starting off C tier, incredibly weak. The reason why I've put in C tier and not D tier or any lower is due to the fact that the map actually has some cover which you can play around, which is really good. Here, especially, you can play around cover here, you can play around a lot of cover, which is really, really good. However, pull me surprised. Boy, oh boy. High placer again is a massive issue on this map. Again, there's so many places where a high placer can just be and be completely fine and completely safe. Again, I feel like also not just that, there's not really any flanking routes a flanker can go, which I think is a pretty lame decision. You can say here, but let's be honest, it's just not interesting. I feel like, I mean, gonna be on point. Like, it's just not a good map. It's so range-sided again, and it's so. I am so excited to talk about the maps which aren't range-sided. It looks nice, but it's just so big. It's like, it's not that, it's kind of actually a fairly decently sized map. However, here is useless waste of space, not gonna lie. I don't actually know when I don't think I've ever used it. Here, again, another waste of space because of the momentum you get, you're not gonna be able to go this way very efficiently. So there's not really any point, and it's so much faster to go that way. Do you want to go that way to flank? Well, everyone's going to be looking this way, so it's not exactly like you're going to be hidden or anything. And if you do, you can literally just go this way. So these two places, these on both sides, kind of just end up being a bit redundant. And then up here, there's no cover to play. So when it does come to trying to flank or get a high placer, they can just go down and get all their team's help. So that's pretty lame. Yeah. Well, to say nothing. Now, when I'm talking about this map, I am not talking about Annihilate, because Annihilate on this map is also, again, not good. Follow me, surprised. I keep saying that. Why is it so bad, in my opinion? Well, why is it in this tier and not any higher? Oh my god, like, I don't know what to say. Hyperlaser, again. Hyperlaser has a lot of leniency. And when I talk about this, I feel like I kind of dog on Hyperlaser a lot, because, you know, obviously, but in a sense, Hyperlaser isn't god-awful. However, the issue is the fact that it's just they're able to do so much and get away with so much so easily. When it comes to other fighters, you don't really see that as much. I guess Biograph maybe, however, Biograph does require quite a bit of skill in my opinion. Skateboard kind of does get away with a lot, however, he also gets countered by a lot of people. I have to be very, very careful due to the fact that you can get flung off the map just from a route of the other from Vinestar. It's not only that though, it's the fact that there isn't really much cover. The only cover you can play is around the sword. You typically see people just camping around here due to the fact that you can't get hit by the high placer and you're out of sight. However, it's so, like, this area right here on both sides is so open. You rarely see people here trying to make a play. due to the fact it's so open, I guess you could go through here, which makes sense. However, obviously you want to stay on point, right? But there's no cover on point for you to take. It's because of the point being elevated. That's kind of why I put it a little bit higher up. It's still not obviously that high because, again, hyper laser is just way too dominant. Of course. Here we are with our very first escort map. I've already spoken about this map in great detail in my escort video. If you want to watch that, not saying you should, because I don't know. There's quite a few issues still with escort. However, the map isn't awful. Now, it's not good, obviously. However, it's better. The issue with the map is these parts here. You see the little raised grass? That and here. The middle is really good. I think it plays out really, really well. Has enough cover, enough options. You can flank back here. You've got some height up here. Height. Again, I feel like hyper laser does get a little bit too much leniency again. I think the wall should be higher. Something, not the wall. You know this little part here? Something about it should be changed. However, this area here I think is a very nice area to just be. I think it's pretty underrated in terms of being here. I'm normally here when I'm playing subspace because you just get so much light and you're at an off angle, which is really good as well, which you need to be. Here, if everything went uphill from here, I mean, it does quite literally go uphill, but if everything went uphill from here, then I wouldn't be mad. I'd put this map higher. However, we have this. Here's the issue. This is very attacker-sided. You'd think, oh, but how is it attacker-sided? Surely it's defender-sided. Because, you know, all this up here. Well, because you can just easily get up here. Now, if this here was around here, very hidden as a flanking route, and it wasn't as easily accessible, and it took a lot longer to get up there, and it was a very much like an alternative route, I would agree. And it would be much better. However, you can just easily get up here and displace everyone who is up here and kind of just screw everyone over. Here, this change here, amazing. I think in general, having more high ground closer to the spawns is a very, very good thing and a very much a big positive, which I think needs to be a bit more. You're never going to reach here, are you? Which is another issue. I think spawns are way too close when it comes to escort maps. I think they need to be pushed back, pushed away, or spawn timers need to be increased when it comes to escort. However, I also think the escort moves too fast, but, you know, that's nothing to do with the map. Here, it just feels a bit cramped nearer to the spawns. Like, here, it feels perfect. You've got this cover here. You've got down here. You've got all the way around here as an option. Should it have more cover? Absolutely. It should. Doesn't though, so we can't really do much about that, can we? There's a lot of options, but then here, the options begin to dwindle and dwindle to the point where you have no more options, which I think escort is a very option-heavy type game mode. Are you going to go around? Are you going to flank? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? That's what I think. That's what escort is like. Except, where are the options? Roblox Mall. Now, it's a weird map for me. If it's so big, I know that there's an escort version of this, right? And I've seen a few people say, oh, you know, maybe they should add it. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think a single map that we currently have in the game is made to be ported over onto escort. However, that's not the current map. I don't like it. I like it more with the fact that hyper laser isn't as dominant. However, the point is just so weird. It's really small. You've got this cover here, and then it feels cramped. But then you look around, and then there's all of this, and there's this here, and then there's the exact same on the other side. I don't think I've ever used this here. I don't think I've ever been here. No, genuinely, I just had a glance over here and I thought, what the hell is that? I've never seen that. I've never seen these. There is so much what you just don't ever see. It's such a big map for no reason. Like, what do you mean you can go up here? But why would you go up here? You wouldn't. You know what I mean? There's so much for nothing. Just for the map, the point to be kind of mid. Again, doesn't play well on an Annihilate. Actually, though, I do think it ends up being one of the better Annihilate maps because of the fact that it has a lot of cover. However, it doesn't really have cover from Slingshot. That's fine. That's an okay point. It doesn't really matter too much about that. It just there is just so much dead space. Just for the point to be so cramped. Is that it? I don't think I have anything else to say. And here we have the one map which I genuinely cannot just straight face rate, as there are some variants which are genuinely really, really good. Then there's others which are not good, which is why I decided to put it dead in the middle. I don't think it is actually dead straight flat in the middle. However, it's pretty much in the middle because there's kind of more worse options than good. There's one option which is kind of the complete opposite of this, where it has stuff here, empty space, stuff here, empty space, stuff here, and then the big empty space in the middle. That is an awful configuration. However, this configuration on specifically Conquer is not awful. It's kind of bad. It's also bad in Annihilate. There is so many configurations to do with Dodgeball. It is genuinely impossible for me to actually rate it because I have such mixed opinions on every single one of them. So here you are. It's the last one of, is it C tier? That is how it's going to go. So I apologise. It just looks nice though. I am so glad they changed it because the old one, I remember the old one, it was horrible. Truly, it does look better. It does look better. It looks nice. I like these side routes. These side routes are pretty interesting. They're also really fun to fight in. Great for flanking. Great for literally a lot of things. But that's about it. That's about it. Here we have the start of B tier. Oh, it's such a good map. It's such a good escort map. Why? So, here we've got a nice flanking route. Here, it's already starting with the options. Here we are. We've got this room up here. We've got high ground. High ground, maybe it's a little bit too much. It definitely is a little bit too much. Here, I think is a crux of the issue when it comes to that high ground. I think it could do with some more. Could do with some tall walls or thicker trees, maybe. Tall walls, I think. Then, we've got here. I don't ever use this, granted. However, we have the option to go around here. Options. I love it. We've got down here. Options. Love it. Around here. Options. Love it. There are so many options for where you can go and what you can do. You don't have to go. You could go around here and take an off angle. Maybe the cat's here. Maybe everyone's facing forwards. You're taking an off angle here. That is amazing. Obviously, same as the side. However, there is one big issue. The spawn. I don't think the spawn should be here. The spawn should be back here. Why? Well, first off, we've got this little area here, which is just never going to be used, ever. Quite literally cut this entire section off, because no one's been here before. Secondly, it is impossible to get your car over here. That is a big issue. I think move it back. Yes, it's going to take more travel time. And yes, there's issues with escort still issues which need to be addressed. However, just pushing that back, the spawn back here, would just give so much more. And I say, push it back, but keep this here as an open option, but make it further back so there's multiple options to get out of spawn. So this is an area where you can go when you're playing as Hyper Laser. That'd be a very, very good choice, I think, in my opinion. There's also here, which I think is a pretty mid area. I think this could be more fleshed out and bigger as a room. Around here as well, think here could be a room as well. I think would be a pretty decent choice. I do really like this map, and I think it plays out so much better than Raven Rock. In general, I think it's a pretty decent map. I think it just needs more rooms. I think that's what I would do, and spawn needs to be pushed back. Overall, a really good looking map. It looks phenomenal. It really looks really good. And it fits the fighting art style so well. There's nothing else to say. It's a really nice map. I think it'd be nice to have some rooms in here. Maybe. People wouldn't probably be going there though, that's the thing. I don't really know where you could put rooms, but I just think rooms would be very, very beneficial because it would allow more choices of where you can go. Here we have another victim to Hyperlaser. Hyperlaser again has all this space to look and take angles from. However, there's one benefit on this map. There are so many walls around the point. And there's a big, massive statue in the middle. Truly, that is what saves this map. That is all what saved this map. You are able to take so much cover, go around so much, and just take cover and take lots of angles. That is what saved this map. We have these flanking routes, which are rarely used. However, they're very beneficial. However, Hyperlaser's gonna see you, but it doesn't matter. Good, if the Hyperlaser's here, they're not gonna see you. However, good, really insane sightline. However, it's very close. This is what I want out when it comes to sightlines. The better sight, like a good sightline. However, you're very vulnerable. And that could work. Don't know though. True. In all fairness, it isn't a bad map. I think it looks amazing. It's just Hyperlaser kind of ruins it again. Slingshot isn't as bad on this map. Dare I say? Because when you're playing Slingshot on this map, you are very open. You'll be playing, like, thank God you're open on Slingshot, because some maps you're just not very open, right? But here you're actually very open when it comes to playing Slingshot, and the people on point are not going to be open, which is amazing. If you want a good sightline, you should be open on Slingshot, and this map does that very well. Maybe I'm just talking a bunch of bullshit. Am I? Do you guys get what? Anyways, I rate it a decent map. A decent map, finally. I rate this map very solid. On Conquer specifically, Annihilate it is a completely different question. However, right, oh my god. I'm not talking about comp when I'm talking about this. However, Opens Annihilate, if they are not camping this godforsaken spawn, then it's pretty fun, because you have the option to go around here, and it's a fun experience. You can also do that in Conquer as well, which is also very fun, which is why I rate it so high. The point also plays very different, which I appreciate. These walls here are a godsend. I play around them all the time as Vinestar. It's amazing. You can escape a lot with these. You can get away. However, the issue again is how open it is and how much Hyperlaser again can dominate. Up here is hard to get to on quite a few characters. Banhammer, for example, which a Banhammer. It's not difficult, like, it's not impossible. However, when you're on the newer side, you can overestimate it. The map isn't, it's just Hyperlaser again. I just like how it's so much more unique compared to the others due to the fact that it's so upwards. You probably, oh my god, you're probably saying, oh, but you rated King of the Hill so low down. Well, King of the Hill had zero cover. At least this map has some cover. And actually good spawns, because I hate King of the Hill spawns. Here we have a map which is very loosely related to a game, which is every map. However, other maps are more related to the game. Did I not pause? I did. It's open again, very open. This side is way better to play than this side, in my opinion. Down here is also very effing open. Again, just very open. A lot of escape options for a Hyperlaser, and the point is very boring. You know what actually saves the point though? This. I was actually really hoping this plane was coming. This plane saves the point. This plane is amazing. This plane genuinely just helps the point so much. I love this plane. I'm sad it doesn't last very long. It comes a few times around though. The normal planes are also very fun. Sometimes I hate them because I just cannot fall into them. However, it's a very fun gimmick. I think it's the best gimmick so far. We haven't really had many gimmicks. Only the, well, obstacles. Hazards. It's a solid map. It is definitely a solid map. I like the spawns. The spawns are very good. The issue is just how open it is. I like when these open, the panels. Well, the panel. It's only one, isn't it? But yeah, again, not much to write home about. This is what you call a glow up. This map is amazing now. It is on a very fine line between A and B. And personally, I think what does it for me, what makes this map so much better, are these little bridges here and here. And this sticking out section here. There's so much more cover to play, which is amazing. We need more cover. You're able to do so much more. And Hyper does not dominate from here anymore as much. Still dominates here, which is in general is what is kind of lacking on this map. here up here as well can very much dominate. However, you're very vulnerable. However, in general, just here, these little going down sections is what really lacks it for me, which is incentivizing me to keep it down in B tier. Just the amount of cover and versatility the point has is amazing to me. It's something what you'll see the lower points, the lower ones have, not have. Apart from, no, that's not true. And it kind of is true. When I say cover, I primarily mean walls, but it doesn't have to be walls. It can be going down. However, in general, the maps where the point is elevated are not as good, which is why I don't like fighting tournament or sword fight on the heights. That's why they're lower down than this map. However, in general, this map just has a lot going for it, and even this little wall blocks Hyper's vision a little bit, and it's so much better. Do you remember when the point had literally nothing? This is such a massive glow up, and it still looks amazing. I still love this map. I just think, again, a little bit more cover here, just maybe like a little pill. One of these, but too far up for no, because it's difficult because is Hyper Laser gonna be able to get up on top of it? You get what I mean? Maybe, you know, it's something what Hyper Laser is unable, just blocks a little bit of vision, and it would jump this map up so much for me. In general, though, it's not an insane issue. However, considering due to the fact that there's so much cover on the point now, I think it might truly be just up here, which is a little bit more of an issue for me. However, I don't generally see people playing around here too often. I do just think it's here. And I guess around here, just like being able to weave in and out, it's kind of difficult to get away, but it's also not difficult to get away. It's difficult to catch up with people and stuff. I just think a little bit more to this map, and it could generally be one of the better maps in the game. Here we have a map which is very popular, and I think a lot of people like it. I do like it, but I don't like it in insane amount. I like it because Hyper Laser is not as dominant on this map. Again, right, we've got this here. However, a Hyper Laser is so vulnerable up here. Hyper Laser is easily going to die up here. And then here, you're so vulnerable here. You see, this map is great for punishing Hyper Lasers. And it's also terrible for it. Look at all this space around the point. The point has a lot of space around, and it's just kind of unbearable space. I wish it had more walls. I know there's quite a few walls and you can hide around. However, I just wish there was more. I also wish there was a little bit more cover you could take around, like, not just play more stuff to navigate around, as Coil can easily get, like, you can easily get caught up, right? The point, though, oh my god, I think might be one of, if not the best point in the game. I know, I've said it. Okay, I've said it. The map is Conquer, right? So the point is the most important part, which is mainly why it's so far up. If the point was not nearly as good as this, it would probably be all the way down in C tier. This point is amazing. There is so much cover, and if you have kept up with any of my points in this video, my number one point has always been the point needs some cover. And I am not specifically talking about on the point, as there's another map coming up soon, not soon, coming up at some point, which has no cover on the point. You know what both do have? Cover around the side. You can navigate through here, take cover, prevent damage, and you can punish people for overextending a lot. Loads of different stuff. It is a great point. Maybe maybe that's also an unpopular opinion. I just love this point, okay? It's such a nice point to play. It's also nice to play on Vine Staff due to the fact that you can go through these crannies and jump up, and there is so much you can do. And I truly appreciate that. There is nothing else to say because I love the points this much. I do like how there's two options to go out of spawn. I like going up here. You know, you can actually be pretty safe up here as Hyper Laser. That's not good. I haven't ever seen anyone go up here as Hyper Laser. A great point. A great point. No complaints about the point. Quite a few complaints around the edge. However, those points don't matter as much as a point. You get what I mean? There's a tier. The point matters the most. Around the edge, point matters next. Then the looks. And it does look pretty nice. yellow is a very dominant colour. And if you know me, and you've listened to anything, and if you've seen some of my community posts, yellow is my favourite colour, so I appreciate anything yellow. Here we have a pretty great map. I like this map. However, as you can tell, there's no cover around the point, but there's cover on the point. And I truly think this is probably one... This is such a good cover point. I think it's really nice to play around. It feels really good, especially on this map. I don't know why. Hyperlaser and Slingshot are again very dominant. However, there's a lot of places where you can go around to flank them, which is a great asset. There are so many options for you to choose. You can go all the way around here. You can go all the way down here and then through up here. Or you can just straight up go this way. There are so many options and that's amazing. There's up here, which people rarely play, but that's because it's very, very dangerous due to the fact that there's no cover. However, you get really good sightline. I think the only issues are up here and here. Again, because you get so much sight, which is another issue. However, this massive, big effing tree is blocking quite a little bit. It's not that much, is it? However, it's so good to play around. Especially if you have a katana on this map. I feel like katana's really, really good on this map. I wouldn't know. I'm not like amazing in terms of knowing what's good and what's not, right? As you can probably tell by the tier list. But boy, is it such a good map in my opinion. I could probably lower it. Should have probably lowered it below Bowling Alley because Bowling Alley just does have a really, really good point. However, it has the fire, which I think is a pretty interesting touch as well. It's just Hyperlaser again. Hyperlaser, add some walls here or something. Add some walls. Give us some sight line blockers, and it's a great map. I want to quickly jump in with Dark Heart's Revenge as someone forgot it existed. And boy, do I have some complaints about this map. Hyperlaser again, horrible sightlines. However, oh my god, this map, I think it deserves B tier. I don't think it deserves A tier. However, I clearly forgot about it, like I just said. Issue, I already said, I'm repeating myself again. What I do enjoy about this map is these parts here where you can go down. I really like them. I like the middle part in the point. I like how many options there are to go. I like how the point goes up. Very interesting. It changes a lot. I have literally nothing else to say because of the fact that Hyperlaser ruins the map. I just think Hyperlaser has too much leniency again. I'm seeing a pattern here, am I? Anti. Yeah, that's about it. This map right here is the map with the best map gimmick. Oops. It is so interesting, so good, so fun. Let's start off with the first point. However, as I think the first point is the weakest point. It's very small. It's a very small point. However, there's still a lot to play around. This point normally lasts a really short amount of time. I find it very uneventful. Typically, I just go flank because there's nothing really going on here. As you can easily come back with the second point. It's an okay point. I just don't think it's amazing. It's better than a lot of points in the game though, so... Point 2. Here, it kind of does fall a bit flat. I think where I personally find an issue is the fact that it's just so big. The walls around are so big. And if the walls came in a little bit more and were on the edge of where the actual point is, I'm assuming the point is there. If it was on the edge of where the actual point is and you was able to go around them and everything, that would be amazing. Again, Hyperlaser isn't too dominant. You can definitely stay back here, and there's not really anywhere you can flank without taking an extra long time to get there. However, it's not awful. The middle part is amazing. The trampoline going up. Sometimes I mess up my subspace. Or vine staff ults. However, this part up here, rotating around. Pretty fun, pretty interesting, pretty cool. You can also contest the point up here, which is really nice. You can take some high ground up here. Really nice. However, it's not too oppressive. It's a pretty good point. I have a bit of an issue with third point. I think it's just a bit lame. It's very typical. The only thing which is different is under here, which is OP for subspace, which I don't mind, to be honest. There just isn't much cover, and you stay up here. However, Hyperlaser isn't too dominant. However, at this point, it's very much quick, fast paced, kill, so Hyperlaser does tend to get unchecked a lot of the time. The point ends up being very chaotic. You can only go this way right to escape. However, if they keep spawning this way, then you're never going to really escape. You're never really going to come away with your life. So on this point, just expect to die all the time and a lot. It's not too much of an issue, but I like playing around this place here, especially just like floating up, back. I like running around here. It's a nice point. I like going around here. It's a nice point. I think it is the strongest point out of all three, but it is very close to the middle point. I think the middle point does fall flat in a lot of areas, like I said. First point falls flat in a lot of areas. However, I'm just a massive fan of the gimmick of this map, which is why I'm ranking it so high compared to a lot of other maps. I also just think the points aren't terrible. So why not? The map looks amazing. There's a lot of options to go. Thank God they decided to change it to Conquer and do this really interesting gimmick. Because imagine it was an Annihilate. Great map. Actually, a wonderful map. Please, I would love more maps with this gimmick. Screw it. Make an entire game mode revolved around this map. 3 separate points. You have to capture 1, capture 2, capture 3, whatever. First person to 2 wins. Great gimmick. I think that would be a really, really good game mode, as it could possibly change a lot. I don't know though. Maybe, probably wouldn't. Could possibly change a lot. It could be a very different way of playing, as you're not just going to one point and staying on that point. You can play around. I hope you see my vision. The map with the best glow up ever out of any map. The fact that this map, what used to be what it was before, it was atrocious. And it is at the top of A for a reason. It is actually not horrendous on Annihilate. I still don't think it's good, however, due to the fact that it does have quite a lot of sightlines. However, these parts here generally just kind of like save it from that. There is a lot going for it on Annihilate. I think it is a pretty decent map. However, that being said, it's Annihilate. I stick to my word. Annihilate is not a good map. You can find me on that. A map? Game mode. You can find me on that. However, it's just not well designed, and I feel like it doesn't work when it comes to a game like this. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong, but I don't know. However, here we have the amazing point. What does this point have for it? Going for it. This middle part. This middle part is really, really good. A lot of cover to be taken. Here, you can come up here to get a pretty decent sightline. Right. What I do wish is that this was a little bit taller, so you could jump up here. I know it sounds kind of stupid. However, I feel like it would help make this place less unsafe, because I feel like it's a little bit too safe to say how much it gives in terms of sightlines. Therefore, I wish we was able to jump up here and get on here. I know you can on a couple characters, but I'm a Vinestaff main and I can't jump up there, so I have to go all the way around to kill people. You've got a lot of options. You've got a lot of place, and you've got a lot of cover. It is amazing with cover. It is so good. I love the cover. 10 out of 10. Not 10 out of 10. Almost 10 out of 10. It's so good. No complaints. I'm so terrible at explaining this. However, look how much cover it has. And I like how it's all very samey. It works well. It works well as a map. Okay. Another map, which is so incredibly close to going to the next tier. Let's start off with the positives. There is so much cover around the point. It is amazing. There's cover around here. Maybe it's a little bit open here, but cover around here. Maybe a little bit open here, but oh well. There's this entire thing in the middle, apart from obviously you can shoot through here, but cover here, amazing. Kind of a little bit of cover here, amazing. Cover. It is so full of cover, and granted, I don't think it's the best point. However, I think it's a pretty damn good point. A point which I can absolutely agree. Oh dear. Get on board with saying it's one of the best. Because it is. I just think this here, the fact that you're able to be on point while taking really, really good cover is amazing. You're a bit open here, but here's the issue. Hyperlaser, again, has big sightlines up here, which is another issue again. I feel like if these sightlines up here were changed to be a lot more unsafe, they'd be fine. These sightlines, if you can get up to them, I'm not sure if you can probably get up to this one, are a lot more unsafe and harder to deal with. However, you can get up here with, as a biograph or whoever, to dive them pretty easily, and you'd force them down. Up here, though, you're not going to force them down, as it's super duper safe. And yeah, these two are my personal gripes with this map. Overall, though, a pretty damn good map. If I do say so myself. The map has a lot of interesting stuff. Why is it blue? A lot of interesting stuff going on. It looks nice. It plays well, I think. Just again, change these parts up here to something. I don't know how you change it though. Sure how you change it. However, those are my two personal issues with the map. I feel like I guess the fact that the point is a little bit elevated is a little bit of an issue. And it does make it a bit hard to take cover on stuff. It's not as amazing as I do say it is. I just think the point is so incredibly well made. Not incredibly well made, but it's really, really good. I think it just lacks a little bit around the point. Around the point is just a little bit lame. Here we have the beginning of ST. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, by the way. It worked though. This map is really, really, really good. I feel like it's a very classic feel of a fighting map. It doesn't have a lot of things I enjoy about maps. I am kind of basing this off of the public opinion. I'm sorry, I'm a sheep. I'm following the herd. I agree, it is definitely a really, really good map. There's a lot of different things you can do, and I like how small it is. And it's very, very different. There's almost no time for you to get back to the point. And there's just a lot of places where you can go. Hyper laser is an issue, again. Are we surprised? However, it is so easy to kill the hyper laser. It's almost like they're not an issue. So that's fine. There's this whole upstairs area which kind of gives a lot of sightline, and it's kind of an issue. But it's also fine because it's really close and you can easily get killed. I don't know why it's such a good map, but like it just is. It just plays really well. I like this little lower area where you can just go. It's really nice to be, and it's a lot of cover. I cannot explain why I like this map. Cannot explain why it's such a good map. What I can do, say, it's small, fast paced, and just generally really enjoyable. And here we have Phighting's best map. You could probably tell you that this was gonna be it. Look, it's good, right? It's got a lot of cover. It's got a really fun interactive thing. The hydraulic press is so cool. You can die a lot by it. But wow, there's so many options. Hyper laser might seem like a big issue on this map, and maybe they are. However, you see what else it is. There's so many options to go kill the hyper laser. You know what else there is? Because I wanna go show you myself. When it comes to me playing and surviving stuff on this map, I am playing around these pillars. And you know what that is amazing? It's just amazing. It's so good. You can play around these pillars and take little to no damage because of the fact that you're around something and you can easily escape. You press E, you run away. You've got an escape option. This map is so good when it comes to just being able to go everywhere and anywhere. And it's not even like, in a way, and it's not even too open. It's very, like, you have options. You have options, but it's also like, you should go this way. You should go this way. You can go this way. Slingshot, again, it can be dominant on this map. However, we've got cover. Cover again. And of course, Slingshot is going to dominate or the melees. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. Not melees. Yeah, melees. Doesn't matter. Because this map is just that good. You can go up on the hydraulic press, go up here. You are safe for a while. You can heal up. You can go up here and contest point. There is so many options and it's amazing. I love it. It also just looks like a really good map. Maybe it's an overhyped map, and I definitely agree it is not perfect by any means. I don't think any map is truly, absolutely amazing because there is so many things what Bread Factory can do better. However, Bread Factory is just still really good. Because there's so much you can do. You can do so many different things, and it's just so fun to play on. With that being said, that is the last map, and there's no other map to consider now, is there? So, now, you may agree with all my points, or maybe you disagree, and you think my tier list is completely terrible and horrendous. Oh well,